I found the cat.
We found our cat.
Hi,
Okay, good.
hi, Kitty.
She's been in the ceiling for like an hour.
Holy shit.
She's not stepping on my GI Joes now.
Okay. Is she a teenager?
Yep.
She's what, like 6 months?
Yeah, just 6 months.
We've got one about like that, and she's a handful. Her name is Monkey, and she'll probably no, she's outside, so she wouldn't make an appearance. But that little shelf you see right here, that's where they eat. All right, well, welcome everybody to the very first shorter happy hour where I do talk to my superbly talented friends that I think the world needs to know more about, but we do it with cocktails and it's a little bit later. And today I'm talking to my friend Jon Sideriadis, and he is an author, an illustrator, and a professor, and a brilliant storyteller, and a newlywed. And this is his beautiful bride, Carolyn. And I'm so glad to get to hang out with you guys today and talk about all the things you're working on and what's going on in life and just how the hell are you?
Hello, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Susan.
Hey, very welcome.
We
Now,
actually have your piece up here in our basement, your never-ending story piece,
oh, that's so sweet.
right next to our gaming area and our TV where we're playing Tears of the Kingdom.
That
But
is
it's
so
on pawns, don't
cool.
worry.
Well, I have a new one. I'll have to give you the Atreyu one. I just finished not too
Oh,
long
nice.
ago. Yeah, you're gonna need a partner piece for it.
Yeah.
But I knew I had to have you on because I'm a Hoosier. I'm in Indiana where Gen Con is. So like I wanted to make sure that all my friends knew about your art and everything, what you'd be bringing possibly before they see you in what, like 2 weeks?
Well, we have a list right here. We took inventory today and went shopping for frames and things, and that's all
Nice.
part of the process. So thanks so much for having me.
Oh, of course. And it's just good to catch up. I mean, you're one of those buddies I only get to see at a LuxCon. So
Yeah,
you're up in Connecticut, right?
Connecticut. Yeah.
That's where you teach.
I so I grew up in Rocky Hill, Connecticut, and I live in Glastonbury. They're all sort of in the center, and I teach down by the shore, closer toward New York, at University of New Haven. But now I'm also teaching at Tunxis Community College. So I'm just doing like one, maybe two classes a semester now, whereas I used to teach full time, taught world building and writing and illustration versions of world building, and then all of the illustration curriculum for the major
Animation.
animation. Oh, that was a nightmare. Toon Boom,
Oh, that
software.
sounds so fun though. Like what a great way to spend a day.
Yeah, and I think it was more fun for the students. Um, but it's over now, and um, I'm trying to start up I already made a banner for it for GenCon, online world building academy. So
Oh,
everything I taught, which is like a year's worth of college level content, master classes in world building. I call it the World Creation Academy. So I'm trying to launch that in September,
I
and I'm going
love
to
it.
advertise it at Gen Con.
Now, I am curious because you I mean, Astro Mythos was just, you created an entire universe with complex, intricate characters and just this beautifully woven story. I'm just curious, is writing your first love or is the art your first love? Is
I
anything?
appreciate all the compliments
Yeah.
because it's a lot of hard work. That's the first thing I tell everybody who wants to start world building or is already doing it. Um, but what was your question?
Is writing your first love or
Oh,
was art?
writing.
Art.
I think art because ever since I was I don't know, like 4 or 5, maybe 6, I used to copy the Marvel comics cards back in like the 80s,
Yeah.
90 into the 90s. Like my first how to draw book was how to draw comics the Marvel way. That really old, like
Yeah.
I don't know, it was made in like the 70s or something.
I think Grant has that, my husband.
It's a classic. It still holds up. Um, but yeah, that was my first love. And then I always loved telling stories. Like I would tell stories to my friends in the woods, even when we were just hanging out and like, you know, exploring in our backyards and finding newts and things and water skimmers and frogs. I would
Yeah.
make up a story about a troll who lived in the woods and who made all the sticks green. Um, I don't know. That was my first, I guess, foray into storytelling. And then I always like playing in the woods with my action figures, like just by myself when I was like 6 or well into like almost high school. And I think I snuck a couple action figures into college, and my roommate found them and thought I was weird. But
Oh,
there they are behind me.
yeah, we have them
Subway Skull,
in every room. And I've got my
He-Man, and
gremlins down here, so
you too. I know. Yeah, I'm not surprised. We have the same interest, right?
absolutely.
This is my 80s room. We
Absolutely.
got Legos in the back. But then I decided I wanted to tell stories because I really got into Tolkien and Greek mythology.
And
I grew up with Greek mythology because I'm Greek.
And you got into filmmaking too.
And filmmaking, yeah.
Briefly.
I went to
That's
do
one
some
of the
work for.
things. Oh, sorry. One of the things I love about this show is finding out new stuff about friends I had no idea about. And I was reading on your website and all the good stuff. I didn't know that you did what was a creature effects artist and also, and you worked on Godzilla.
I did the promotional material for Godzilla, the Matthew Broderick movie, the first American Godzilla, I think it was,
It's so cool.
produced by like an American production company. And then I did some work for Silent Hill and the video game and the movie.
Underworld?
Underworld Evolution with Kate. What's her
That was
name?
the third one, right?
The second one.
Beckinsale? Kate Beckinsale?
Kate Beckinsale with
You
like
on
the lichens, the werewolves, and the vampires fighting each other.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of monster movie stuff out there, mostly sculpting and working on the late foam latex for the monsters and sculpting gashes and lacerations and things and working on
You
that
like watch the flick and
Batman.
you're like, I did that.
Yeah, it's like it's a lot of post production stuff, but some like promotional stuff and sculpting. And one of the creatures I sculpted there for I don't know, just to pass the time, became a mini, and now I have minis of it that I'm selling at GenCon. That were
So,
made by Hit Point Press. So those are gonna be cool. The asteroid monsters. They're giant gargantuan minis.
and they're going to be at Gen Con.
Yeah, I have 2 minis available now: the Spider Lord and the Polycephalos. He's a two-headed asteroid monster.
I'll have to check that out. Now,
Sold a couple at Kineticon.
why did you quit doing the Hollywood stuff?
Because all my friends and family live here, and I I wanted to make my own stories and my own worlds. And over there, I was just making stuff for Patrick Totopoulos in Totopoulos Studios. I mean, he's great, and he does a lot of awesome production design
Yeah.
for like DC Comics movies and Independence Day and Godzilla and movies like that. But like, um, I don't know. I
No,
didn't want to do
I
that.
was a
I
bit
wanted to make my
obsessed
own
with
world.
it. That's crazy that you worked with him because I was obsessed with that show Face Off. I
Oh
was
yeah,
just sure that I was going to one day like get on that show or get into special effects. And so I would, yeah, I definitely want to pick your brain about that stuff sometime. It just
it
looks so
was. Sorry,
you're
it was
good.
fun working with him. He used to ride into work every day on a motorcycle. I'd go out to lunch with him, and then I found out later that he was on the show Face Off. And there's someone that was on the show, a contestant who lives right here in Connecticut. He has a studio up in Winsted, like northern Connecticut. He's very good.
There's one of the dudes, I can't think of his name right now. He was my favorite too, but it's been so long. I know he has a studio in Chicago, which isn't that far from me. So I've thought about going up there and taking a class or two just to do it, just to learn it.
That'd
So
be awesome. Yeah.
yeah. I do have some more questions about your book though,
Okay.
Astromyths. And I know well, first off, you're wrapping up book 2 right now?
Yeah, just like maybe 6 to 8 more pages. I'm at the end of the last myth, and then I just have to write the epilogue, and
That's
then
a
20 more illustrations, mostly landscapes, which I'm
yeah.
I'm really looking forward to.
Well, I was looking at the art in them, and well, one thing I think it's a very smart decision. I don't know if it just came from the the intelligence of doing the whole illuminated manuscripts look to it because it makes it look like something that's been around for centuries. But I think you're also drawn to the same stuff artistically that I am, that where I just love the way those look. And they look like they'd be a lot of fun to make. But with a lot of your art pages, I mean, they look so organic, but they also have like an obvious composition and characters that clearly have been thought of. So I'm curious how much is planned out and how much is just letting your hand do its thing.
I plan on doing more because I really like doing those too. And you don't really see that anymore. You don't see,
Yeah.
in the book, when you read the book, you don't see epic epic poetry or heroic verse anymore. You also don't see illustrations that have like hand lettered. So I'm trying to bring back some of that old world, those old world classic art styles that you see in like gospel books or like Persian miniatures and things like
Yeah.
that. Um,
It gives validity to your story in a visual way.
that was the goal, to, like you said, for someone to like look at one of those paintings and to have the sensation that it like came from that world, or the understanding that it was like someone picked up that book from the world of Esther mythos, and it's almost like a tome or a relic. That was the goal. That was the intention. I don't know if
That's
they answered your question, but
no, I was just
your
curious,
question.
like, cause they seem to have just a very much like just letting your hand do its thing, but I know they're also very well planned. So I was just curious how much of this is like,
Oh
do
yeah,
you
right,
plan
right.
every last detail, or do you let some of it happen organically?
The first one actually, I talked to my brother on the phone about it. It was a piece for grad school. It was one of my thesis pieces. It was the letter C and the space dwarves, the nanos piece, and I drew that out and planned out the whole composition. And that one wasn't even like, the story for that character wasn't even written yet. It's that character appears, that like those folks appear in book two, which isn't even done yet. That's the one that is just about wrapped up. Um, a lot of the pieces I did for my thesis in grad school at the University of Hartford, for MFA in illustration, were for book two. But I felt like I had to write book one to establish a mythology and a creation story first, like just so everything else could be more believable and reference the pantheon of different stars in the
Yeah.
first book when I got to the second and third book.
Because I was curious if you just like had a sketchbook of these characters and then, had to come up with a story to kind of build the web to connect all these worlds, or if the story's kind of always been there, and then you created the characters for it, or a little bit of both.
That's a good question, because like a lot of people just come up with sketches and then come up with a story, or some people write the story first and then do the like pick what they want to illustrate.
Yeah.
For me, it was just doodling in high school, not paying attention in class, and all of those little pieces and things, and putting them, recording them and cataloging them in my computer, and scanning and taking pictures of things, and transcribing all of my sketchbook and journal notes into the computer,
Yeah.
so that I could, one day organize it into a giant like IP, intellectual property, and book series. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's great. It seems like you also have like the business mind that goes with the creative mind. A lot of people don't have that and are thinking about already, having transcripts of the stories and all of that. So that's a big work in your. Did you always know you were going to be an artist? Has it always?
I think so. I wanted to be like my parents told me that I should be a comedian, but then the weight of the world crushed my soul. So I
Well,
became an artist.
those kind of
And
comedians do well too.
I also want to be an astronaut because I love space. So I said, why don't I paint space and nebulas and stars, and make characters out of astronomy and the stars, and take astronomy and mythology, my two favorite things, and combine them.
Yeah.
And then I just kept drawing, and then I kept my drawings. I put them to the side, and they eventually found their way into my stories. So that now that I have enough of my drawings and my journals and my computer and everything, now I write the stories and then illustrate them.
Okay.
So in the beginning, I sketched, and then I found stories in my sketches and drawings. And now that I have enough of all that, I just write and write and write, and then I pick what I want to illustrate. So it's inverted now. It's the other way around.
Very
It's
cool.
the text and then the art.
Do you have a favorite medium that you like to work in?
Um, Acrylic gouache for water media, and oil.
Oh,
Um, I mostly use watercolor, acrylic gouache, and I more rarely use oil now because it's very toxic and I don't want any long-term health problems. So I have a lot of like all my paints are AP, non-toxic paints. I use Eco House thinner, walnut medium, walnut elk medium, which is not as toxic.
sorry, you just
And
reminded me of a story from college. I remember I did a lot of oil painting in college, and I was also still a smoker then. And I remember being on the back dock and smoking cigarettes with oil paint on my fingers on the cigarette. Just
no, no.
it's amazing I don't have cancer right now. So
Well, it's just,
on wood. fine. When you're 20, you're invincible. So it's all good.
Yeah, I had students that would like love the smell of workable fixative, and I'm like, that's really, really dangerous and bad for you, and you just spray outside. They're like, oh, I love the smell though, and I'm like, you're such a college student.
Yeah. And the tracers that
I
come
was
with
the same way too. The what?
the tracers that follow after you've been smelling it.
Yeah, they come back into drawing because I taught drawing for a long time. I'm still teaching drawing, and we spray our drawings. They come back into the classroom after they spray outside, and then you just they come in. There's like a wafture of like poison following them away,
Yeah.
and it's like, if only But they learn eventually.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's
that's yeah.
you have that outlet, to teach the kids as well. I'm curious, whenever you finished your book, how did you go about finding a publisher? What was that like?
That was the hardest part. That was the worst part. Took me 5 years.
Damn.
So 20 years from start to finish. I started in the year 2000. And I had to invent my own mythology. I had to draw everything out, like keep journals of ideas and scrap a bunch of ideas. And over the course of 20 years, you see video games come out and movies and things that steal your ideas, not intentionally, but steal, like they did it, so you can't do it anymore, that kind of thing. So I had to scrap a bunch of awesome ideas over so many times because it was such a long-term project that I was just doing for free in my spare time. Um, yeah, just plugging away.
And then it was the conventions that, sorry for jumping in.
No, that's good because I'm terrible at answering questions. I have ADD.
It's totally casual, yeah.
Get the question in like 30 seconds
I don't
after
know
talking.
which
Yeah.
convention that you met him, but you ran into Jon Sideriadis, who
Oh,
ran
Jon
the art
Sideriadis.
order at the time.
He's
The
great.
former art director of D&D and right before 5e, for Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I took his business card at LuxCon, in the showcase where I first met you. And
And we saw him again at Artisticon.
oh yeah, that's right.
He
Artisticon in Philly.
He actually gave a presentation, a panel about it, about how to kickstart your own project. And he gave a whole talk about how there's so many hidden costs like storage, or what happens if your shipment is damaged, or what happens if your storage facility floods, like all those hidden costs to a Kickstarter that can put you in the red.
Yeah.
And he just basically told people you can self-publish, but you have to be prepared in these ways. And after that talk, we went up and we talked to him and said, are you interested in our book? John's book?
And he said, yeah, when you're ready, shoot me an email. So like a couple of years later, I shot him an email after going to like New York and talking to tour books and like sending out my query letters, which are a pain to write, to all sorts of different agents and publishers for years. He's like, this is exactly what we're looking for, and it would be an honor to work for you, which was ironic because when I got out of school, all I wanted to do was work for D&D or Magic the Gathering. And I sent in my submissions, and he was the art director at the time, and they were denied, and I didn't hear anything back. And then it's funny how life works out. I sent my book to him when he started a new company called The Art Order and what was looking for different like published like authors and things. He said it would be an honor to work with you. I'm like, well, okay, but I didn't mention the
he might not have even seen your submissions when you got out of college.
Yeah,
but
probably.
Once we did get to connect with him, it was great.
And he was great to work with. The first shipment was completely destroyed, but this was during COVID, and
how was it destroyed?
The pallet was blown out somewhere on the way from China to America, or in customs or
in
something.
Transit, and it was just a thing that happens sometimes. We don't really know the cause, but
so I didn't. Yeah.
Jon Sideriadis took really good care of Jon Sideriadis, and they got the books reprinted and got them into the hands of our backers. And
publishing is a tremendous ordeal. It's a gargantuan ordeal. Especially if you're running your own Kickstarter, which is what I did for the D&D module, the 5-part adventures, Lair of the Spider Lord. Yeah, I will never do that again. At least not for a while.
I need to learn about Kickstarter. I wonder if John would do a show in here, like giving people tips and stuff. But did you take notes from that lecture? I would love copies.
Well, after running my own Kickstarter, I could probably do my own lecture on the whole thing the whole deal that John gave to us before I took on that challenge. And now Yeah, it's a lot of work dealing
At
with
LuxCon,
I'm
I'll
working
bring
with
a notebook.
E-Star China right now.
At LuxCon, I'll bring a notebook and sit down with you guys.
So much work, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the language barrier is tough too. It depends on who you're communicating with in the It's a great company, E-Star. They do a lot of the board games that we see at GenCon.
Yeah.
But like it's difficult to work with them because I have to do everything myself, like all the photoshopping, all the Adobe Illustrator. Our friend is doing the InDesign. I have to format all the tuck boxes and the cards, the dice. We have to work with the polyhedral templates because I'm doing dice, cards, bookmarks, minis, just everything that goes into board game basically
That's
or
so
spider
much.
board.
How do you
It's
guys
so much
have
work.
time to do anything between that and being a professor and just all of life?
We're just zombies. Yeah, we're always tired. 24/7, we're always tired. We always talk about how we're tired. We I
Yeah.
just did Kineticon. Like I didn't sleep the whole weekend. Um, that went pretty well.
Yeah.
And I'm doing
You can
Gen Con,
remember.
Dragon Con, LuxCon.
Yeah. What
Yeah,
other
it's
cons
just
do you
like
have? Oh, sorry.
never ends. But it's because I switched from full time to part time.
Yeah.
The next convention is Gen Con in Indianapolis. That's the first week of August. After that is Dragon Con in Atlanta. That's the Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
And after that is October.
End of October,
LuxCon.
LuxCon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
LuxCon, yeah. I've got
Yeah.
a Ring Fair and a LuxCon and Indiana Toy and Comic Expo in October. And then I'm going to go to Gen Con just to hang out with everybody. And I'm going to be
Okay.
helping out Steve Najarin, who does dragons and stuff. I'm going to be helping him so he can have breaks.
Cool.
And then, yeah, I'm not going to Dragon Con, but the company that I art direct for will be there. So if you see Sound Booth Theater, tell them hi.
Oh, nice.
Okay, we will. Yeah. Well, I will.
Yeah.
I'm driving down there by myself
Oh, right on.
from Connecticut.
I'm a school teacher, so I can't go in the assistant role once school starts. I can't really get days off, the first 2 weeks of school.
Sure. Hi, kids. Bye, kids.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So what do you
Well, that'd
teach?
be good. I'll look for them.
I teach first and second grade violin and cello.
Oh, wow. I love that.
I'm a big old band nerd. Clarinet is my main instrument, so I wanted to go into band, but I teach strings. It's
Right.
just the job I could get.
Fellow creatives. That always works.
And Carolyn also does these awesome Lord of the Rings maps on slices of wood with the bark on the
Oh yeah, I'm
perimeter.
a self-taught
Dice trays.
wood burning artist.
Nice.
So we
Very
collaborate. She's gonna be in the showcase at LuxCon this year too.
really. Oh, good. We'll get to hang out. I get to
So
see
she
some
has.
stuff.
Oh,
It'll
sorry.
be fun, yeah. Thanks.
She's gonna bring her goblin pins, her goblin trays, her Lord of the Rings maps, her dice trays, all sorts of D&D adjacent items and original art. And we collaborated on a lot of art together for Astro Mythos Book 1, which is great. We did some maps together, some acrylic pours for nebulas and stuff. And she really helped with Spider Lord. She did. I did half the map. She did the other half. She inked almost all the maps because there was 15 maps, including a world map for the book. So, and she helped me inventory everything today for Gen Con. So we're quite the team.
Yeah.
My maps is kind of like a specialized interest. Have you always found them fascinating? Old maps?
No.
Oh,
I just really like the Lord of the Rings map because I'm obsessed with Lord of the Rings. It's I've always loved it since forever. And then it's what brought John and I together as a couple.
Oh,
We met online and in my bio it said, what are you looking for in your perfect partner? So I had written down, I was feeling snarky at the time, so I wrote down, build me an army worthy of Mordor. And he saw that and he loved it, and then we had a Lord of the Rings themed wedding.
oh, I
yeah.
love it. The wedding was beautiful. What I saw on Facebook looked absolutely gorgeous. And
Thank you so much.
That was
congratulations.
almost all Carolyn.
Yeah.
I was busy doing the Kickstarter. She was busy doing the wedding.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And I can totally relate to the love of Lord of the Rings. I remember I got to go to the traveling show that came around, and I'm sorry, I'm a nerd. I cried when I got to see the wax sculptures and everything that they used in the movies, and it was just unimaginable, and the costumes and just everything.
Yeah, so when I started
awesome.
wood burning, I started doing like Tolkien themed pieces, like coasters with the One Ring text on it. And then when I got a little better, I was like, I think it's time. I'm gonna try to do the Middle Earth map as like a goal.
Yeah.
And so I started doing that, and then I got several commissions, like, oh, can you do my homebrew D&D map for my players? And I did it in the Tolkien style. So I just copied the way he did mountains
Yeah.
and the way he did trees, and I can just take that and apply it to other maps.
Well, at GenCon, you will know if you were parked near me because the back of my car, the entire back window has the One Ring script going
That's awesome.
in a circle.
I'll look for that. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Like, yeah, Susan's here. Yeah. So I'm curious, are you to either one of you, are you the only creatives in your family, or are your parents creative as well?
My parents were not creative. My dad is creative with building things. He was a mechanic, and he
Okay.
loves building custom things. And I collaborate with him. We built like a weather vane together,
See,
where a little man on a motorcycle is like flying, driving so fast he's flying off the motorcycle. And
I would say that John's parents are creative. It's just that they don't identify that way.
Okay.
in
So
different ways, yeah.
John's mom is she's got her doctorate in
Mhm.
social work,
And behavioral psychology.
behavioral
So I couldn't
psychology.
get away with anything growing up.
Oh yeah. And she's incredibly talented at gardening and interior design. Like her house is gorgeous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are
And
visual
then
arts.
yeah, John's dad is a genius at mechanical arts.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Really, he's helped me over the years do everything I do. From starting to frame, custom frame everything I do, like the whole frame setup with the saw table and the puncher,
Yeah.
and he's part of the reason why I do all my own framing now.
So
Apart from going
beneficial.
to Michael's and being lazy and getting a couple, because I don't have time, but like
Yeah.
Yeah.
he really like takes interest in what we do. He got an anvil, and we dabbled in forging and things. And
Yeah. So they don't think of themselves as creative types or artist types,
Yeah.
but they really are in their own unique way. So that's why I think they recognized it in John and fostered his talents. They like took him to art camps and everything. And
yeah, I took art classes when I was a little kid. They recognized my kindergarten teacher recognized my talents when I did a watercolor of my house and my lawn with all these
Awesome.
worms in it. And my brother went to art school. He went to Pratt.
Okay.
He started his own line called Munch Money, little zipper bags that hold Game Boy games and change for kids with a zipper
Cute.
mouth. They're little monsters. Um, they're made out of felt. And he's a stay-at-home dad. He's super creative with everything he does. So like he definitely got the art gene from my grandma, who was the one that was that's where I got my genes from, my art genes from. She was a seamstress in Greece during World War II. And she
the
opened her
kind
own shop and everything.
the kind of like crazy little adorable village where they grew their own silkworms and then crocheted with the silk.
Oh my God, I'm in love with this grandma. This is so
Well, that
cool.
was my mom's grandma. Yeah.
Well,
Mom's
both
grandma.
of them were
Yeah.
creative.
Oh,
My,
it's
mo- my mom's
fascinating.
grandma was a shepherd, and she was very creative too, actually. Yeah.
I forgot both of them.
She
Sorry,
crocheted like all of her everything, like all of her
Yeah.
clothes and doilies and runners, and she
Yes.
was very talented. She made Christmas crocheted snowmen for us and stuff.
and
Yeah.
snow.
I have a lot of
Snowflakes.
those from my grandma, and she was born the year 1900, and she was from Germany. So whatever year it was, I knew how old she was. It's like 1985.
Ah,
She's
that's cool.
85 this year.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, and I have her original oil paint box. She liked to do a little painting and dabbling and stuff whenever she was younger. And it's just so neat to see how it's carried on through the family. Like my mom went to music, but it's all different paths of the same creative mind. And I just love that. Oh, I'd love to hear more stories about your family. They sound awesome. I
Yeah,
did see that you taught in Greece. How did that come about?
I taught in Greece in Rhodes, which was just really terrible right now with the wildfires. It's consuming all of Rhodes. It's
Oh no.
uncontrollable. So we're hoping that they can tame it eventually. There's even planes from Canada coming in and dumping water on it. But I taught in the castle there, the Third Crusade Castle,
Wow.
That was through Pear.
Padilla. So it
Oh,
was
Padilla.
the Greek The Hellenic Society of New England was right near Yukon, if you're familiar with the Yukon, um, in Storrs, Connecticut. And they go to Greece every summer and take students there,
Okay.
mostly Yukon students. I took some Lime Academy students where I used to teach, and we go over there, and the director of the program teaches Greek language, and I taught and history and culture, and I taught Greek art history and world building, and a little bit of illustration and painting.
Yeah.
So we had our classroom in the castle. So I'd walk through the castle gates every morning, and the students would be sitting on the battlements and like yelling at me, because they'd get up at like 5, and
Yeah.
you could go anywhere in the castle. Even we went through the dungeons and all the like,
That's so cool.
canals, and they just go on for miles. And there's string, like in the Theseus myth, in the Minotaur. There's threads everywhere, so there's different colored threads, so you don't get lost down there. We found all these moldy spiders, which eventually became characters in my module. Well, one of
Yeah.
the characters is a cave mold spider, so I did an illustration for him, and um,
It's so
he's in the
cool.
spider lair, and
You've
so that
lived
was pretty
a
cool.
book life.
The
It's just-
what?
I said you've lived a fairy book life. This is incredible.
Thank
Castles,
you.
all that. I can tell you about cornfields and digging in the creek, the Hoosier life, but
A lot of it was just to make money and get that full-time job, to
yeah,
like, get a place to save enough money to buy a house and start a family.
sure.
Because like, in my mind is like, if I taught abroad, that means it's better in my resume and could get a full-time job.
Yeah.
So, but when we were there, of course, it was awesome. We went to Mount Olympus, and we went to Nemea, where one of the labors of Hercules took place, and we went to all sorts of different sites where Alexander the Great was born, and um, yeah, it was crazy. I got to buy some gold leaf in Thessaloniki, and
Oh,
that's the best gold leaf that I've found, and the cheapest.
that
Uh,
would be a dream for me because I studied Greek mythology and Latin and all of, and I was always very, very taken with all of that. And that world just seems, or that country, it just seems like magic to me. It's just hard to believe it's real.
it is real. It's really cool because you can go to the places that are in the myths, like where King Aegeus leapt off the cliff after he saw the black sail. That's Sunion, where I've been there multiple times, like where you can watch the sunset over Poseidon's temple, and that's you can see where King Aegeus was fabled to have like jumped off the cliff. You can see where Hercules fought the lion of Nemea. Um, you can go to the labyrinth at Knossos in Crete, where the Theseus fought the Minotaur, and they actually exist in Greece, like these places in the myths, which is super cool.
That'd be
Um,
incredible.
so it was great for world building for my students to come. My favorite students, they all went. I was only like 5 or 6 students, and we
Yeah,
we illustrated characters. We illustrated like Daedalus and Icarus, and it was awesome.
that sounds awesome. Well, in my neck of the woods, have you ever been to the Parthenon in Nashville, Tennessee? That's impressive.
No, but I've been to Tennessee, and I've been to the Dwarven Caves, which is really cool.
Oh, I haven't been there. No, at
Um,
the Parthenon, they have a giant gold Athena. It's
that's
massive.
awesome.
Yeah, it's breathtaking. So if you're ever down there, you should check it. I'm sure it will pale in comparison to what you saw actually in Greece, but it's still pretty freaking awesome.
It's probably cooler because in Greece it's just ruins,
Oh, that's true. There
but
you
like
go.
the Acropolis. But I would love to go down and see it.
Oh,
Just Athena's my favorite goddess. So.
yeah, no, it's breathtaking because you see pictures of it and you're like, that's pretty cool. But it's another to stand at her toe, and her toe is right here. Just the size, it's just incredible.
That's awesome.
But anyway, I am curious, since you're just about done with book two, how does it vary from book one? Is it a continuation? Tell me about it.
Book 2 was the creation story of like the first comet, the first black hole, the first brown dwarf and red giant, and they actually look like giants and dwarves.
Okay.
And then, um,
You mean that's book one?
sorry, that's book 1.
Yeah, that was book one.
Book 2 is introduces humans, and humans
Oh,
come into being on the planet Zos, which is the planet that falls in love with the first comet after she crashes into him and becomes the moon. So they
oh,
become lovers, and that explains, and that's how I combine astronomy and mythology. That explains the phase locking of the Earth and the Moon. So, in other words, they're always looking at each other, dancing sort of cheek to cheek.
I love that.
Which
So,
he put in our wedding vows.
Oh, you guys are
yeah,
so cute.
and she has some really cool Celtic wedding vows. From
No, I'm not derailing the conversation. I was just saying the
okay,
phase lock, the cheek to cheek. His talent with epic poetry, he wrote his wedding vows, and I'm
Did you
still getting
sob like a baby?
yeah, pretty much. I was in tears and I said, I have to follow that. And
Yeah.
everybody laughed.
she made me choke up too. I had to like go like this and not look at her. But
Aw.
so in book two, it was also like perfect for a campaign setting and a module because it introduces humans, and these characters called Star Slayers and the Nanos, who are the natives of the planet Zeus, which is like Earth,
Okay.
and how a little bit of a spoiler, how the High King of mankind slays the moon and stabs his sword into her heart, and thereby causes corruption and pollutes the earth, and it's very environmental and maybe a little preachy, but it's a story about how the half star, half human characters like Kuros are trying to help the good humans save the earth from being destroyed by the men of evil,
So I feel
quote
like
unquote.
book one, which I adored, I read it like 3 times, was a lot of setup. It kind of has to be by nature of the beast. And then book two, from what I've been able to read, sneaking into his office when I can,
Oh,
it's a lot more action based and it's very exciting. So I think a lot of people that might have struggled a little bit with book one because it's pretty heavy, they might be a bit like more invested in book two because you see the same characters throughout the book instead of just one myth and then you're done.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more stitched throughout the book. There's more evolution.
Yeah, I could
Yeah.
compare book one to this more like the Silmarillion or a creation story, and then book two more like The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. If we were to like have some context.
I'm curious, is this something that you could ever picture being animated or into a movie, some sort of epic
Yeah.
thing like Lord of the Rings?
If they didn't butcher it,
Yeah.
at the
Well,
end
you'd
of Game
have
of
to have
Thrones.
complete control.
Someone wanted to do a shadow puppet version of it animated, but I turned it down.
Hmm.
Because I'd really just like to see it like He-Man or Thundercats or
Mm.
Captain N,
80s
something like
style?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
80s style. Oh yeah.
Sorry, I have this little gnat
Funimation.
driving me crazy. I know you guys can't see it in the camera, so it just looks like I'm losing my mind and slowly batting away at shadows. But I swear to God,
No worries. But yeah, yeah, you never know. I don't know.
If it got to the right studio that would do right by it, it would be awesome.
Yeah, but when you start dealing with these studios and people who like producers, like the shadow puppet people, like you got to be very careful. Like
yeah.
the guy who wrote the Witcher books, he only got like I don't know 5,000 for the video game rights, and then they made millions on the video games.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
And I know a lot of people are like, oh well, he wasn't smart to do that, but
He was desperate.
when you're in that situation, you're desperate, you're just trying to pay rent. Like when I was first started writing this book, even for the first 10 years, I was just trying to get by. I was living in a one-room apartment, a studio efficiency apartment,
Mhm.
just trying to sell paintings to get by, and I would have done that in a heartbeat. And then of course these big companies with a fortune take advantage of it,
Yeah.
so you got to be very careful, and always get a lawyer, always have something to look at every contract, and you'll get screwed over in a heartbeat. Like
That's
with
rough though, because a lot of artists with good ideas and desperate for money can't exactly afford a lawyer. So
exactly, that's how they exploit these artists and their talents. So not many people know that or are prepared for that, but it's a reality that everyone has to face if whatever you work on takes off, even just like for a new book or like a short animated short or something.
yeah.
um
I was
you
just
can be
thinking my nephew's finishing up law school. I'm like, so Sam Zimmerman, I'm going to get he's going to be on call if anything ever gets picked up.
yeah, you got to be really careful. Right now my attorney is Seth. I don't know if you know Seth. Polanski.
Oh yeah, he's great. I just
He's
know him
good.
socially, and I have ran a question or two by him. Like I was one of the Comic Cons had me create some art for them, which was loosely based off of Triclops from He-Man, but
Oh,
I did
nice.
more of a Cyclops version, but used the color palette. And so I just wanted to run it past him and be like, "Can we get sued for this?" He's like, "No, it's far enough away from either character, so you're good to go." But yeah,
I love Triclops and Grizzlor.
We have a close friend who's a copyright attorney also.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's not on the books, but we can always call on him when we've got questions.
When I started the series, I registered Astro Mythos in the patent trademark office, and it cost about $500 back in what, 2000, 2008, 2007. Just because I was getting emails from people saying like, oh, can I use the name Astro Mythos? I'm doing a board game, and like, so yeah. You got to lock into the IP and everything, and there's a lot of legal stuff you have to do. It takes forever. Lair of the Spider Lord, we're already on like the 5th editor. I used Dylan of Critical Crafting as my D&D editor. He's brilliant. He's a great guy. Does a great job. But then when Hit Point Press wanted to take a look at it, I had to hire a sensitivity editor, a 5e editor, and now I have my graphic designer is also editing it, and I have to look through it myself and do some editing. Carolyn's going to take a look at it. So it's cost me thousands and thousands of dollars just to edit the book, and then also edit it after a publisher picked it up. So you have to have all like a giant budget for these things.
That just sounds overwhelming. I mean, it would absolutely have to be a complete passion of yours to go through all of that.
Yeah. You have to. So a lot of the money I raised in the Kickstarter, basically all the money I raised in the Kickstarter is going right back into production. So I make zero profit.
Yeah.
And I think it was like 25K or something. All goes back in. And a lot of people don't realize that for the first book, we made 45K, and all of it went into production and advertising.
Yeah, so to get the stock that he now has at conventions, like all the copies of the books that are in our house, like right behind where the computer is right now.
My copy's upstairs.
Yeah. All of the copies that we have printed were purchased with the quote unquote profits. So we didn't actually get anything to pocket. It's just invested in the future and future conventions and future art shows.
So the return on investment, it really helps with taxes too, because if you spend enough, you don't have to pay as much for your taxes, right? Yeah. And then your return on investment is over time. So if you order 2,000 books, you make money over time on a project that you self-publish. If you work with a traditional publisher, you only get 10%, maybe even less if you work with like a writer or something, you collaborate. And you have to order your books through them, and so you make a lot less unless you wrote like the next Harry Potter or 50 Shades of Grey or something. So it's there's a lot of red tape and number crunching and calculating and copyrights and lawyers and attorneys.
I'd say balance,
Balance, yeah.
You have to balance these things in
That's
your
not
head.
the fun part. But if you want to go big, you got to, get through all this.
Well, and luckily you're both teaching at the time, right? Because like bills still need to get paid. There's a lot of people that are completely freelance and they're putting all their time and energy into a book project or a series or something like that they need to get funded on Kickstarter. And so that can be so scary because you're like, well, I still have to pay my mortgage. I still have to eat.
Yep. Yeah. That was really terrifying. It's especially to move to part-time, but that was all Tolkien. Like I became a professor and an author because of him. And I was like, he probably makes a pretty good amount of money. He only has to work maybe 3 days a week, 4. Yeah. Then I can have 1 or 2 days a week where I can write and illustrate my own thing for free. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did for 12 years in order to make Astro Mythos Book 1, and then in turn eventually be able to make Lair of the Spider Lord.
Yeah.
So it really helped with benefits and healthcare and dental and vision and
yeah, and now that we're married, we can make those decisions together. So Jon can pull back from teaching and do more of his own work, and I can carry on the benefits because I don't need to be full-time artist. I have my dream job. I'm teaching music to little kids. It's awesome.
It is
And,
awesome.
And private school benefits are garbage.
well, yeah, we're not
My
he's not
insurance
a
was
private school.
terrible at a university. I was a professor at a university. My insurance was trash.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was useless. It was just a waste of money, just dumping money in the garbage every year.
His insurance was basically to avoid the tax penalty for not having insurance.
Yeah.
wow.
But now I work for a public school, and I love it. So I'm getting my master's degree in special ed, which will give me a pay bump so that he can justify pulling back from the university.
That's
Comes
great.
back to what we said before. It's all balance, you know.
Yeah.
And now at this point, I'm able to make just about as much as I made teaching full time with just one class a semester ish, and all the books and the shows and the freelance.
That's
So,
great. Yeah, I was wondering how you were able to make it work with being a full-time professor and doing the conventions and working on books and all that kind of stuff. It didn't seem like there would be enough hours in the day to make all that work. But part-time makes sense. And yeah,
It's a
with
bit
her
of a workaholic.
I'm a workaholic. I worked for over 10 years, every day, every week, weekend day, almost 20, like, and not 24/7, but every day, all day, weekends, never see my friends, like for 10 plus years, just work, 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 work.
Does it feel
Probably
worth
took
it
like 10
though?
years off my life, but um,
Yeah, it's like in
full
there
time,
a movie
freelance,
comes out or
mission.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang out with
Sorry.
your friends. No, I was like, did it feel worth it sometimes where you're just like, oh, this new movie came out. I'd love to see it with my friends, but I'm gonna work again.
Right. That was all the time. No D&D, no friends, no video games, no girlfriends. Um, terrible, terrible love life for years and years and years and
I mean,
years.
I feel like I benefited the most
I was
from
gonna
him
say it
every
worked out
day.
pretty good. So
Just a hermit, the life of a hermit and I mean, that's could be a good piece of advice for any world builder, world creator. It's like, and someone who wants to hit it big. It's like, you gotta just have no life, be a hermit, and give a lot of your soul away to, whoever, the illustration gods.
I feel like the years that you spent dedicated to the book were definitely worth it because the book is incredible. The
yeah.
artwork is amazing. The writing is just as amazing.
Yeah.
And once we became a couple, and we knew it was serious pretty early on, at least I did, we started working together with that, and certain days became sacrosanct. Like, okay, it's Saturday. You don't need to check your email. You don't need to help
That
that
was hard.
college kid.
That was hard.
It was hard for him. I would tell him all the time, like, you don't need to answer that college kid's email. It can wait till Monday. College kids don't care if you respond right away.
No.
It
And
took
then
some time.
eventually I'm like, wait, so maybe I could take Sundays off from now on.
Yeah.
And that was really scary for me. And then eventually I started taking Saturday and Sunday off every weekend. Once we started going out,
Yeah.
because I wanted to dedicate more time to Carolyn,
Sure.
And then you got it published and it did work out.
And then it worked out, and I was able to eventually, because of all the hard work prior.
Yeah, you invested a lot earlier in life.
Decade plus of hard work, and yeah.
I think it paid off.
But it paid off, and yeah.
It's
It was
so
a big risk.
It's so hard to do though. Like in my mind, whenever I was still full time at Author Solutions doing children's book, like that was my work time. That was my 40 hours a week. Okay. Then my evenings and weekends, I would work on my personal art and try to push that. And I remember my husband leaving me post-it notes on my laptop, like no worky today. It's just like I would have to reconnect because if I wasn't doing it hourly, I didn't consider it work because it's my own personal stuff. I don't know. So yeah, being an artist, a writer, yeah.
So yeah, you need that reminder. You need that like partner who's understands you.
Yeah.
And you need someone to remind you to like smell the roses and have fun and not be like.
Well, a little bit of both. Like we love our fun time. We take our dog out hiking. We take our together time. But once in a while, he'll say like, I really need to sit down and just work all morning. Is that okay? Because I have summers off. This is my free time to be a person again.
Yeah.
And I'll say, yes, absolutely, because I love his book and I love how much he loves his book. So of course he can have several hours if he needs to work quietly, and I'll just do my own thing because I support the project as much as I support him.
Like we're supposed to, her mom is coming tomorrow with her nephew to go cliff diving at Cotton Hollow in the woods where we have our watering hole.
Oh, how
And
fun.
I'm like, I need to work all day and frame literally all day for GenCon.
And I am gonna take the dogs.
And she's okay with it.
And we will see you for dinner time. We will
I'll
have
be
fun
dead,
together
but,
later.
Yeah.
Too bad you guys live so far. I would love to come hang out and do that. That sounds like a blast.
It's
But yeah,
awesome.
I have a German Shepherd, and she's part of the thing that, well, she helps get me away from my desk, because she needs walked 2 times a day and she likes to go hiking in the woods. And God bless her, she helps me get out and be amongst the trees and just, yeah, get away from the easel for a little bit.
Yeah.
So big
The
help.
trees help amongst the trees. I like how you put that.
Absolutely.
So the smell and then the silence and the wind.
That's my
Gotta
chapel.
remember to, yeah.
Yeah. I am curious, is there a part of your brain that knows how many of these books that there's going to be? Or are you just going?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't wait for you to finish.
You're good?
That's my ADD. Trilogy is the plan.
Okay.
If I get burnt out and I can't take it anymore, this book two will be the last one. We're planning on collaborating to do a children's book, D&D themed.
Yeah.
And
I've been sworn to secrecy. I keep wanting to tell my friends about it, but he won't let me say anything.
I can't. It's really, yeah.
It's very cute.
Top secret.
Well, especially don't say it on a podcast because, my 20 watchers might spread the word.
When we are ready to make the announcement, we'll let you know, and we'll be back on to talk about it.
That'd be great. Yeah.
The plan now is just maybe a trilogy, but more realistically, 2 books, and then finish Layla Spider-Lord, maybe some monster manual or some like one shots or something simple, because I don't want to go through that again. Yeah. Bestiary, Esther Mythos Bestiary would be fun. Working with cool. critical crafting again.
Yeah.
And then Greek mythology eventually, retold in the style of Esther Mythos. The heroic verse, the rhyming heroic verse in 6-line stanzas.
That's smart. Yeah.
My visual interpretation of all the myths, all my favorite myths, especially like the obscure myths.
I love that because I've been kind of wanting to get into that with some of older German fables, since I'm half German, and I want to do like my style of more of the gritty watercolor, kind of like more traditional, and just by everything by hand. But yeah, they're kind of they're a lot darker than what a lot of people realize, and I think that would be so cool.
I would back that.
Yeah.
In a minute. Yeah.
Like take my money.
Exactly. I love reading folk tales and fairy tales.
Yeah, me too.
So much of that goes into what we do, right?
Absolutely. And I like the ones that aren't Disneyed up. I mean, I love my Disney, but the ones that are just a little twisted, those are the ones that really inspire me to want to create some art for them. Yeah,
like John Bauer is my favorite illustrator. I got the book of Swedish folktales that he illustrated. I read all the folktales, and it really opened my eyes to like Italian folktales, Italo Calvino's tales, and which were like edited by George Martin.
Really?
Just like all sorts of different fairy tales and mythologies, and there's so many good Aztec myths and great Shinto mythology stories and
Japanese ones.
Yeah, like
the book
it's
African
endless.
folk tales are awesome.
Hindu stories from the scriptures. All the content in my world building classes, like I had to read a lot for that class, and it really got me into all just world mythologies in general. Joe Campbell, and his contemporaries. Okay. Bruno Bettelheim.
Who's Bruno Bettelheim?
He wrote Uses of Enchantment, interpretations of fairy tales, Germanic, like Brothers Grimm.
Yeah.
And their foundations. Yeah.
It's like I have my cartoons and everything that kind of lit a creative spark in me. But the thing I think that goes back even farther than that was my grandma Tyne, who was the little old German woman. She used to read me the classic fairy tales in an old hardbound book that she used to read to my dad. And so those were the first stories that I started to visualize and everything. So that's what's kind of deep rooted within me. And it would be great if I've already I've started a couple spins on the Red Riding Hood tail, really large round paintings. I'm hoping to have at least one, hopefully two of them done in time for LuxCon. So hopefully you can check.
I look forward to that.
That's one of my favorite fairy tales.
Me too.
Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, I didn't know all the twisted like sexual innuendos that coincide with the story. You know, I started learning more about it. I was like, oh, this is wow, okay.
Yeah, a lot of fairy tales are like that, right? The Princess and the Frog. The frog is puberty, and the golden sphere, the golden ball is adulthood and perfection. It's
like her red
the sliminess of the frog.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's just Bluebeard.
Bluebeard.
We always talk about our cat. Our cat is so Bluebeard. Where there was the one door you can't enter, and he told all of his lovers and his mistresses,
his many wives.
Wives.
There's one room you can have my whole kingdom, but one room you may never enter.
That's the Kitty room. That's the room Kitty always wants to enter. It's my office. She's not allowed in my office. That's the one room she cries and cries and cries because she can't go in there.
Oh, that's awesome. Just own it all.
They make so much sense. That's the great thing about fairy tales. They're not preachy, because children are preached to so much by their parents, but they teach a subliminal lesson.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of them.
That's wild. Well, what can I expect to see at your table at this Gen Con? What are you bringing?
That's a point of contention.
Well,
I don't need to know exactly.
A ton of prints.
We went through an inventory today, and Jon said, okay, I won't bring everything. I won't fill the car. I won't bring these 5. And then he came up with a list of 50 paintings he wants to bring.
A list of full-page list of paintings, packaged prints, and
but you're in the art show. Then the space limited? Like they give you only so much room.
Yeah, we're gonna plan it out mathematically. / I will plan it out. He's one of the featured artists this year, so he gets 8 pro panels worth. So it's quite a bit of space.
Okay.
And then we have extenders.
And he has the extensions, yeah.
So probably 40, 50 paintings. If we can fit them in the car, we're entertaining the idea of driving up with 2 cars to Indiana, 13-hour drive. And my banner for the World Building Academy, my banner for the Spider Lord pre-order, and what else? So the miniatures.
We went into some of the archives from past work, I think from when Jon was in grad school, and there was still promise in some of those paintings, so he's gonna frame them up.
Nice.
Like the giant,
some college
the giant guy, the red,
3 by 3 foot painting. Giant painting.
And then a lot of paintings of items and creatures that he made for Lair of the Spider Lord, which I don't think he's shared very much on social media, just a few reels here and there, but that'll be exciting.
And some Goodman Games illustrations for their Dungeon Denizens 500 Monster Manual book.
That was his most recent commissioned work.
Yeah, so that's
you miniatures too, don't you? Did I see that on Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay, what's that?
Some display painted miniatures painted by Sugar Candy Miniatures, and a ton of the miniatures for sale, the giant 2-headed monster and the Spider Lord.
Cool.
So we're gonna do some Tetrising in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I know this isn't your first Gen Con. What's your what do you love about coming to Gen Con?
There's thousands and thousands of people that go, and we have something in common with every single one of them.
Our favorite people,
which is the coolest thing, I think.
Yeah, our favorite convention, our favorite people. We go early. We get up super early, even though we're exhausted, and every morning before they open the doors to the public, and we go and play test and sometimes buy things and just look at all the cool stuff they have there. They have all our favorite games and miniatures and dice, and they get to play big settlers there, giant sized Carcassonne, some of our favorite board games. And there's just board games all night everywhere. And then we get to go out with our favorite illustrators and have dinner with the people that, I once looked up to as a kid. which is awesome. And the food trucks outside, they have a whole block sectioned off for like 20 food trucks, 10.
Yeah.
And the dance hall.
Yeah.
There's like a big geeky dance hall, which we love because like people are dressed up in their like as Pikachu and stuff, and all the people from GenCon go, and we get to dance in this giant dance hall, like
Got
only a
that.
block away. We
That sounds
discovered it last
cool.
time,
I think
and like, oh my god,
I think that's every Saturday. It's either every Friday night or a Saturday night of Gen Con. There's like a big nerd dance. And it's
Well, let
just,
me know if you hear about it.
yeah.
we dance all night there.
I gotta double check with our friend to see which night it is, but it's always the same hotel. And it was just wild because there's normal nerds just like us dancing, acting silly to like 90s songs like Cascada and all these things. And then we look over and there's a furry dancing with Pikachu. Like,
Yeah, it's fun.
they were getting into it. It was so much fun.
We do the limbo.
Yeah.
I was doing the limbo with like a dark doublet, the crisscross tied,
Yes.
not a doublet, a tunic. And someone called me. I looked like the dark Black Pirate Roberts, and they called me Inigo Montoya when I was doing the limbo.
Yeah.
And, I was, and then it was just like
community.
Yeah. It's a
craziness.
gigantic convention, so it can be overwhelming. It's just because we're like nestled in the loving little snuggle of the art portion.
Yeah.
Like we don't get sensory overload. We can just enjoy what we can here and there.
For sure. Well, and it's going to be like an AluxCon reunion. There's like, I was looking at the list of all the artists that's going to be there, and like half the people I hung out with a few months ago. I guess, well, October's more than a few months ago. So there's a good list of people. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's like 100% back to normal at this point. So there's gonna be a lot of people, a lot of great artists and friends, and
Are you
good
guys
times.
still like COVID aware at all? Still COVID conscious, or is that not even crossing your mind?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
When I was teaching, I was wearing my mask pretty much from January to the end of the year.
Same.
Just because I love children, but they're gross.
Yeah.
And they are not COVID aware, so they haven't really learned yet how to sneeze without, spraying someone in the face. Yeah.
Even college students, like
I teach very little kids.
the college students are much different.
Yeah.
They'll come in with COVID and lie and say they have allergies, and then you'll have COVID like a week later.
That's exactly how we caught it.
I missed like a month of school in the fall last school year.
Oh,
and
man.
Kids will just come in like super sick and not even wear a mask. And it's like, so I wore a mask. I also wore a mask all fall and spring semester. And we wore masks on the plane when we took a honeymoon to Ireland and Scotland just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
We wore masks on the plane. There's a ton of sick people.
Yeah, so on transit and stuff, but at the convention, I think because it's so wide open, we won't be too worried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now that they can detect it faster, like John's dad is immunocompromised, so we always test still before, like if we have a big event, we'll take a test before we see him again, just to be sure.
We do too, because my mom has COPD and emphysema. There's no way she can catch it. So I have to be real careful before I go and see her again. I'm still gonna come, and I'm like playing with the idea of a mask, but I doubt I will. But my husband's not sure because we have our big trip to Oregon coming up in 2 weeks. So like if we get sick at GenCon, then like 2 weeks after that, can't imagine missing out on our trip. So I don't know if he'll be there or not, but I want him to meet you guys sometime.
Well, you got to be careful. I completely understand.
Yeah.
It was rough during COVID at GenCon.
Yeah.
There's almost no one there.
Didn't they cancel it in 2020?
Online 2020, but then was it 2021?
Yeah, I don't know. The year after they went online, it was like almost no one there, and it was like everyone was masked. It was tough, but that was my best year ever.
Yeah. Well, people were excited to get out, so they went, yes, I'm just happy to be here. Can I please buy this or for real.
Yeah, that'd be good to see everybody there.
Yeah.
You're gonna be there too, right?
Yep, I'm gonna be there. I'm not sure what days yet. Probably Saturday, because that's the day he'll probably need the most help. Other than that, I'm not sure. I might come Thursday just because it'll be a more easy day to visit with everybody. So we'll see.
We should all hang out there.
Yeah, and if you guys need help, feel free to text me. I'm an hour from there.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, I just
Okay.
I've got my badge online. I just gotta pick it up. But oh, I have another question for you. I didn't ask. Do you have any favorite artists or artist style that, might not be what you do? Or
Um,
who geeks you out whenever you go to a convention? You're like, oh, that person.
Ralph Horsley.
Ralph Horsey, yeah, geek out at Ralph Horsey. That's one of my favorite living artists right now. But I love Da Vinci. That's my favorite artist. My favorite illustrator is Jan Bauer.
Mhm.
And my favorite black and white illustrator artist is Gustave Doré. Um,
People.
just like mostly dead people. um, I don't,
No, I mean, you've got such a wonderful, close-knit community. Like, we love Chris Burdett,
Chris Burdett's one of my
Scott Murphy.
Scott
We're just
Murphy,
gonna name drop all our
my
friends.
metal buddy.
Do it. Yes, do it.
Omar. I love
of course,
Omar.
Susan.
Oh, well,
Yeah. Omar's one of my favorites.
Omar Rayon, yeah.
Like he's been forever since I did my first big show and at FairyCon.
Yeah.
Um,
Fanned out when I met him the first time. He probably just thinks I'm a complete goob because I was just like, oh, I love your work. I don't know. I was drunk and barefoot, and I'm sure he didn't remember it. But
he's our favorite GenCon buddy because we're usually like right next to him, so you'll see us passing the bottle between our two tables.
We bring like drinks for each other, and
they fight
Sheila,
over who has better cuisine, Lebanese or Greek.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I love Sheila.
Yeah.
Who else? There's a lot, but I don't know. Like
those
are what I could think of. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like all the like Scandinavian artists like Tengrin and Kittelsen and Kai Nielsen and all the Greek artists like Phidias and all the Hellenic Greek artists. A lot of them like never signed their work because it wasn't fashionable at the time to do so. And
Oh man.
Albert Dürer.
Yeah. I know that one.
Giotto.
Yep.
Bernini. Van Gogh.
We even love Tolkien's illustrations.
Klimt and Max Ernst Fuchs.
What about Alan Lee if you like Tolkien?
Alan Lee, yeah, of course. Alan Lee, Brian Froud.
Yes.
Don Howe, the Hildebrands. This is a hard one. I could go on for a long time.
That's a lot of favorites. So I think you've got a good amount there for people to look up. So that's awesome.
He's an enthusiastic person.
Sidney Syme, Aubrey Beardsley. Yeah, this Audelaine Rodin. Yeah, I don't like Michelangelo as much or Raphael, but
no Michelangelo?
Donatello. I'm not a fan of Michelangelo.
No turtles. No turtles.
The turtles are good. Yeah.
just Leonardo da Vinci.
Da Vinci's the best. Yeah. Hieronymus Bosch, Peter Bruegel. Yeah.
You're just reading my art history book at this point.
I taught art history for years, so like it's a curse because you compare yourself to all these people and you're like, oh, I suck.
One year for John's birthday, I got a woodworking friend of mine to recreate the Settlers of Catan board on wood. So he got all the hexes and stuff, and I took a bunch of John's favorites and turned them into the resources for the board.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Very cool.
I kind of had to like mess up. Yeah. So the water ring around the side was the Hokusai wave, and I tried to make it like continuous around.
I love Hokusai.
Yeah. Then I did the sheep were Hayao Miyazaki in the Studio Ghibli films, because there's a lot of like pastoral scenes with little sheep in the background.
Yeah.
Shitaka Amano, he's great.
The bricks were Da Vinci, so I tried to copy some of his sketches. The mountains were Tolkien's mountains from the Hobbit cover, or the ore.
Tolkien's a great artist too.
Yeah, the ore was.
He's not known for it.
What else was it? And the wheat I turned into Van Gogh.
Da Vinci was one of them.
I said Da Vinci, yeah. And then the last one is wood, which was Kai Nielsen, right?
Or Nielsen.
No.
No, I don't know. Bauer.
John Bauer.
Yeah.
That was it. I think that's all the people.
So thoughtful. That was really sweet.
That was a lot of work.
And Bob Ross. Finally, Bob Ross.
Oh, yes.
Underrated. He's just like, I don't know. He's like, Bob Ross is my Bible.
He is Zen personified.
That he got me through COVID. Literally, just watching Bob Ross got me through teaching COVID, teaching students during COVID.
That is so sweet.
And advising students during COVID and keeping them from nervous breakdowns and things.
Yeah. Well, Carolyn, I'm curious, is there any artists that you see at the conventions you're like, holy shit, it's them? Or are you pretty much desensitized to them?
I've been learning just by being like in his shadow, so I didn't know many of the names.
Okay.
But a lot
Akira,
of
Kurosawa. No, Akira Toriyama, right?
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, never mind. Dragon Ball Z. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, some of my favorites are like names we've already mentioned. I would love to get an original from Omar one day. Maybe when the next Kickstarter hits big, we'll see.
Ralph Horsley.
Ralph Horsley, we do have one of his.
He's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
He's our favorite.
So nice.
And Sheila Rayon. I have some of her pottery pieces. I love Sheila.
Yes, I would love to have some of her pottery. It's so whimsical and joyful. It just makes me happy. I love it.
Yeah. I have one of her little monsters, and it's like right above our kitchen sink, so I see it whenever I'm doing dishes.
Dave Wenzel.
Oh yeah, Dave Wenzel.
Our buddy.
Love Dave Wenzel.
Yeah. We were just texting him today that he did the Hobbit graphic novel.
Yeah, I didn't know him until last LuxCon, and he came over and chatted me up at my booth for quite some time because I did traditional watercolor. So he was like, "Oh, hey, what kind of paper do you use?" Blah blah blah, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" So yeah, he's a real cool guy, real easy to chat with.
He lives about 20 minutes from where my parents live here in Connecticut.
Nice.
And John and David share a framer, and they would go to the shop and fight over the frame. And they put each other pictures and be like, haha, I got there first.
The best like crazy museum frames you've ever seen. Yeah. Like we used to teach together for years.
Right.
We became buddies, and
yeah.
You know, he would we would be driving to like a show, and he would be feeding me chips because I was driving, and one by one. That's
cool. That would be well, my art buddy, of course, is Jacob Walker. So he was in like
we love Jacob, yeah.
Yeah. I think he was like the 3rd episode or something, and he hit a framed photo of my husband in the backdrop. So we always travel around because he's a Hoosier guy too. So I think he's gonna be at Gen Con. I'm not 100%. He's been having roof trouble, insurance companies being real asshole. But
we hope so. We love hanging out with him, and there's so many people, and yeah.
Good people. All right. Well, we've talked for a little over an hour. So a couple things. Do you have any last words, anything for like up and coming artists? And you got to give me your socials, social media for everybody to look at your work and get all ready for Gen Con.
Oh no, that's the question, isn't it?
Okay. So I'll do the socials while you think about your guys. John uses of course, astromythos.com. We have a shop. You can get the book and the minis online. I'm working on a portfolio of his originals. Not for sale online, but just so people can see what's available and send inquiries. Yeah. Instagram and Facebook he uses. It's just Jon Sideriadis.
Okay.
JonSideradis.
You want to see something funny?
Oh yeah.
You didn't tell me how to say your last name before. I hope I did it well in the intro because I made a little cheat sheet here. This says Sideriadis.
That's good. I should use that too. And I appreciate you asking Carolyn's pronunciation too.
Yeah, because sometimes
with Caroline all the time.
Yeah.
It's Sideriadis. Yeah. It's ancient Greek. It's like David Sedaris, but it's it's with Adis at the end, which means son of. So son of iron. Sedaris is iron.
Nice. Yeah, my brain always wants to go to Sedaris, but that's not right.
Right.
So my advice would be, if you're really striving and trying to do your best, putting out your your his greatest work, making a portfolio, whatever you're doing, world building maybe, and also also writing, on top of illustrating. If it's not the hardest thing you've ever done, you're not doing it right.
Oh, I like that.
That's my greatest advice, because there's a million other artists out there, and if you're gonna stand out, you're gonna have to work the hardest you've ever worked in your entire life. And if you're not, it's not gonna work. You're not gonna stand out, and yeah, you're not gonna make that breakthrough painting that you never thought you could have painted,
Yeah.
and surprise yourself with that painting. Like, how did I even do that? If you get goosebumps, after working that hard, that's when you know that you're ready to show your portfolio at GenCon, or to one of the art directors you email.
And I'll play off of that. I'd say don't be afraid of going your own path. Like Jon stuck to his IP. He didn't jump into the world of commissions first and my art later, which is absolutely fine. Lots of people do it that way, and it's a great way to build talent and skill.
It's because I couldn't get any commissions out of college.
Yeah, but you could have given up.
Backwards.
You could have given up, and you did it.
Yeah.
And it's paid off, because now those companies are coming back to you and they're asking for your time. Like, they want you now.
Yeah.
Which I hope you feel validated in some way. So to some kids that feel different, or feel like they have to, walk uphill both ways in the snow, you can still be successful even if it takes you a little longer, or if it's a little harder for you.
It's never too late, and it takes most people about 10 years after college to really make their big break, or to like feel comfortable and accomplished in some capacity.
Yeah. Do what you can to get fed, and then don't be afraid of the grind.
Yeah.
Even if you have to eat ramen and hot dogs for 10 years and live in an efficiency apartment and be utterly lonely and miserable.
Okay, don't be too dark. You're happy now.
Sorry, I tend to be really dark and real, but
when you're an artist truly at
you can
heart,
channel that into your art.
That's the lesser of two evils when you imagine a life without art.
Right.
So yeah, I would rather have hot dogs and crappy apartments and than not doing what I love.
The silver lining is exactly me too. Like, I agree. Like, the silver lining is you channel that into your stories, and you channel that into your art.
Yeah.
And you make really powerful work that speaks to people on like a really high level.
Yeah. And you clearly put in the work, because your name is synonymous with this look. Like I have a certain aesthetic that comes up when it's your name, versus some artists who maybe didn't put in the work on their own personal stuff. You're just like, oh yeah, I know they do art, but you don't immediately see their aesthetic whenever you think of them. So, and you've accomplished that. And I'm excited to see book 2. And I'm excited to see all the stuff that you're going to bring at GenCon.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to see all the other artists. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
I have the jury this year, which will be less pressure.
Yeah. Well, and you're the future artist. That's so cool. You've got to be excited about that.
Yeah, I'm tired, excited.
Well, he's preparing now, so it's kind of like I need to be ready. When he's there, he'll be excited.
Yeah.
Are you going to take a day or two off and just kind of exhale afterwards, or is it just status quo?
If I take a day off, I'll be dead.
No, you will take a day off and you will be happy for it.
No days off.
Well, I absolutely adore you both. It was so good getting to chat with you. And unless you have anything else, I'm just going to wrap this up, and we'll just look forward to talking to you after all this and after book 2, and then, see where it goes.
Sounds great.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us and hang out.
Of course. You guys rock, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right.
Okay. Looking forward to it.
Yes. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good night.
You too.